Yes.
And what zone and shift did you work at that time?
I worked in Zone 7, Bravo shift, which is night shift.
And was that the same zone and shift as Deputy Josh Moyers?
That is a different zone. That is on the east side of the county, but it is the same shift.
Was it a common occurrence, or if something happened that required further assistance, would you go to his zone on occasion?
It would have to be extreme circumstances for me to leave the east side of the county to the west side. But yes.
Turning your attention specifically to September 23rd, did you hear a call go out over the radio from Deputy Barnes?
Yes.
And what was the nature of the call?
Officer down.
Upon hearing that call, did you immediately respond?
Yes.
And were you given further information once you arrived on scene?
Yes.
What did you learn?
I learned that Josh had been shot and that the suspect had fled in an unknown direction. Shortly after arriving on scene, we discovered the direction of the vehicle, but no suspect information.
And were you given a description of the suspect and or the vehicle that he was traveling in?
The vehicle was a red van, and on the suspect description, it looked like a white male from the video.
Did you then begin to search the area for the suspect in that vehicle?
Yes.
Shortly after you began the search, were you notified that there was a detained female who potentially had information about the murder?
Yes.
Where was she located?
She was located on the dirt road side of Sandy Ford.
Did you then travel to that location and make contact with her?
Yes.
What was her name?
Her name is Noel Gail.
Can you describe her demeanor at the time you contacted her?
She was scared, shocked, very cooperative with us, nervous, a plethora of emotions.
Did you ask her to identify the suspect?
Yes.
And did she provide you with a name?
The name she provided was Patrick.
Was she able to provide you with a last name at that time?
No.
Did she provide I know that you said on the video you were able to see white male, but was she able to describe to you with a little bit greater detail what the suspect looked like?
She was. The description she gave was a white male. He had shorter hair. He was wearing a gray ball cap at the time with a black sweater, and he had on black or dark pants or shorts.
Did she also identify to you where he and her, I guess at that time, had hid after fleeing from the scene?
Yes, she said it was approximately a 5-minute walk from where other deputies from the sheriff's office located her on the dirt road.
And did she say she was hiding under or around anything in particular?
Yes, she stated that the suspect had hidden underneath a camper on the right-hand side of the road.
What did you do after learning of the specific location where they were hiding and getting a better description of the suspect?
I got on the radio and advised the other units that were on scene all the information that she had given me so that they could formulate a search team to locate the suspect.
Did she provide, and I'll ask you specific questions in a second, but did she provide further information about what she had seen occur?
Yes. She stated during the stop, she observed him shoot Josh in the face and then lean out of the window a second time and shot again.
Did she say if the suspect said anything to her as they were being stopped?
Yes, she said that I'm not going back to jail.
Did she say whether he said anything after the murder occurred?
After the murder occurred, he continued to tell her that he was sorry.
Did he say anything else?
That he wasn't going back. If I may refer to my report, I believe that I'm forgetting a piece of information.
Yes, sir. Would that refresh your memory?
Yes, please. Specifically about the stop, I don't believe that there was anything else that he had stated other than he wasn't going back and he was sorry.
After they fled from the scene, did she tell you what they did once they ditched the vehicle?
Yes, he made her turn her phone off, and he took her phone from her. As she begged him to give her her phone back and release her, to let her go.
Did she provide any additional information about what occurred and what they were doing prior to the traffic stop?
Prior to the traffic stop, they were just supposed to be riding around doing dirt road riding.
Did she ask at some point, in order to aid in the investigation, that her phone be retrieved and given to her?
Yes.
For what purpose?
The purpose was to assist in identifying the suspect. She stated that she had a picture on her phone of the suspect, and I believe that she had other information as far as maybe a Facebook account or something of the sort that she could show us.
After your conversation with her, did you transport her back to a staging location?
Yes.
And did she then, or did you essentially turn her over to detectives for them to speak to her further?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Defense questions?
Deputy, I think there's one more thing in your report that she told you that Mr. McDowell told her, and that is he told her to run to safety.
Correct.
Thank you, that's all, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the witness may step down. Is he excused?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you are excused from subpoena. Call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. State would call Noel Gail.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, if you could please sit forward and speak into the microphone so everybody can hear you, okay? Can you please state your name and spell it for Madam Court Reporter?
Noel Gail, Noellegale.
Ms. Gale, back in September of 2021, did you know an individual by the name of Patrick McDowell?
Yes.
How did you know this individual?
Through an ex-boyfriend.
And when you say you knew him through an ex-boyfriend, who was that person and how did that person know Patrick McDowell?
His name was James White, and they were friends.
And did you come to know Mr. McDowell and see him on occasion back in September of 2021?
Yes.
And for what purpose?
For drugs.
You would get drugs from him?
Yes.
Do you see the person seated here in this courtroom that you used to buy drugs from back in 2021?
Yes.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing and where he's positioned?
He's standing up in the brown coat.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant, Patrick McDowell.
All right, you may continue.
Prior to September, about how long did you know the defendant?
A couple months.
Did you have any sort of romantic relationship?
No.
On the evening when this incident occurred, where was your boyfriend?
In jail.
So how was it that you came to come into contact with the defendant, Mr. McDowell?
He contacted me
How?
over Facebook.
Why did he contact you?
To hang out.
And when you say hang out, did you anticipate that you would be doing drugs with him?
Yes.
Where were you living in September of 2021?
Off of Fort Caroline and Monument.
Who were you living with?
My grandfather.
Did anybody else live with you from time to time during that period in September of 2021?
My mother and my daughter.
How old was your daughter at the time?
4 years old.
And was she staying with you that night of September 21st or 23rd of 2021?
No.
Where was she?
She was with her dad for the weekend.
And because your daughter was not with you, did you agree to meet up with Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
And again, this was to do drugs?
Yes.
At that time, what type of drugs were you doing?
Methamphetamine and Xanax.
So you agreed to meet up with the defendant. Did he go to your location or did you go to his location?
He picked me up from my grandfather's house.
Did he go to the door?
No, he called me when he was outside and I came out.
Where did you go after you left your grandfather's house?
Behind the big lots on San Pablo Road
Why did you go behind the big lots on San Pablo Road?
to buy drugs from one of his associates.
Did you know the person you were going to be buying drugs from?
Yes.
Who was that person?
His name was Kane.
Was that your source or was that the defendant's source?
It was his source.
When the defendant picked you up, what kind of car was he driving that night?
I don't remember.
You don't remember the car that this incident took place in?
No.
So when you got behind the big lots, what took place?
I cash apped Patrick $30 for the drugs, and we got in the back seat of Kane's vehicle, and he bought the drugs.
After you obtained the drugs from Kane, what did you all do?
We got back into Patrick's vehicle, and we smoked the drugs.
And again, you don't remember what kind of car it was that you were in?
No.
A video of this encounter shows a red minivan. Does that refresh your recollection?
I'm sorry, yes, I thought you meant Kane's car.
Okay, so you knew the defendant was driving a red minivan.
Yes.
That's what he picked you up in.
Yes.
Was that his van?
No.
Was that van stolen?
Yes.
And how'd you know that?
He had told me in a previous time.
So despite knowing that, you agreed to go out with him and buy drugs in a stolen van.
Yes.
And after you obtained those drugs from Kane, you got back into the van, and is that when you did the drugs?
Yes.
I think you had said, in addition to meth, that you had taken Xanax that night. When was that? Was that before the
Previous.
defendant picked you up?
Yes, previous to that.
And then in addition to the Xanax, you smoked the meth that was purchased from Kane.
Yes.
Did the defendant do the methamphetamine as well?
Yes.
Right there in the Big Lots parking lot?
Yes.
Where'd you go after Big Lots?
We drove around for a little while. I can't remember exactly where we went to, but at some point we started driving to the Florida-Georgia line.
Why were you driving all the way out? Because when you're talking about San Pablo Road, we're talking about Beach Boulevard in San Pablo in Jacksonville, correct?
Yes.
And you live in the Fort Caroline area at the time, correct?
Yes.
Why were you driving all the way out to the Florida-Georgia line?
We were supposed to go trail riding and shoot off the guns.
When you say shoot off the guns, what guns are you talking about?
The guns that Patrick had in his vehicle.
Had you seen Patrick with guns before?
Yes.
Did you specifically see the guns when you got into the vehicle?
No.
But your plan was, after you had smoked meth, that you would go out to the Florida-Georgia line and shoot guns?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know exactly. That's just what we plan to do.
Had you ever done that before with this defendant?
No.
Did he ever tell you that he had gone out there before?
Yes.
What did he tell you about that?
He told me that he had been there before. I don't remember exactly.
So you leave Jacksonville, you go north towards the Florida-Georgia line. At some point in time, did you realize that you all needed gasoline for the van?
Yes.
And where did you go to try to get gas?
We stopped at multiple different gas stations, and they were closed until we finally found one that was open.
And was the one that was open off of 301?
Yes.
What happened when you got to the gas station? What did you do?
I went inside and used the bathroom.
And did you provide any funds for the gas?
Yes.
How did you do that?
I sent it via Cash App to Patrick.
After you gassed up the van with the money that you sent to Patrick via Cash App, did you do anything else before you left the parking lot of the gas station?
We did more drugs.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I couldn't hear that.
If you can try to speak into the microphone and keep your voice up so everybody can hear you.
We did more drugs.
Right there in the parking lot.
Yes.
Did you know that there was a police officer in the parking lot?
No.
At some point in time, did the defendant tell you that he observed a police officer?
Once we were driving, yes.
So fill up the van with gas, do more drugs. Are we talking about meth?
Yes.
How did you consume the meth that night?
I smoked it out of a pipe.
Was the defendant doing it the same way?
No.
What was he doing?
He was also smoking it out of a pipe, but a different way, through his nose.
Through his nose. Okay. So you did that in the parking lot at the gas station, but after you left the parking lot, that's when the defendant recognized that there was a police officer behind you?
Yes.
How shortly after leaving the parking lot of the gas station did he indicate that to you?
When we were driving down 301, so very soon.
What did the defendant say and how was he acting when he recognized that there was a police officer behind him?
He indicated to me that there was a cop behind us and that he thought the cop could possibly be calling for backup and that he didn't want to go back to jail.
How was he acting?
Scared.
And at this point in time, had the police officer activated the blue lights, the emergency lights on his car?
No.
So he's just driving behind you all?
Yes.
So even before the blue lights were activated, the defendant knew that there was a police officer behind him?
Yes.
And he's already saying, I don't want to go back to jail.
Yes.
Did you still have drugs in the car?
Yes.
And while you said you hadn't seen them, you believe that there were guns in the car as well, because that's what you all were driving out there to do, is shoot guns, right?
Yes.
And you knew it was a stolen car at that point,
Yes.
because the defendant had told you that?
Yes.
What did the defendant say he was going to do when he recognized there was a police officer behind him?
Run from the cop.
When you mean run from the cop, you mean in the car?
Yes.
Like on a high-speed chase?
Yes.
What did you say when he said he was going to run from the police officer?
I told him that it was not a good idea and that I did not want him to run
Why?
because I was also scared and I didn't want to get in more trouble.
How long do you think this exchange between you and him is lasting before the lights go on for the police car?
Within seconds.
Did you notice when the police officer turned on the emergency lights?
Yes.
What happened inside the car when the officer turned on the emergency lights?
It was very silent for a moment. Patrick kept driving. He eventually pulled over to a different street and stopped the car.
Did you see a gun at this point in time?
No.
Did you know where the gun was in the car, where the guns were in the car?
No.
After the defendant pulled over, did the officer approach the vehicle?
Yes.
Where was he standing?
On Patrick's side of the vehicle at his window.
And what happened when the officer approached the driver's window?
He started talking to us, asking us for our names.
Did the defendant provide his real name?
No.
Do you remember the name that he provided?
No.
But you knew whatever he told the officer, that wasn't his real name.
Yes.
What about you? Did you provide your real name?
Yes.
Did you have identification on you that night?
I did not, but I provided him a photo of my ID that was on my phone.
Were you afraid you were going to go to jail?
Yes.
After you provided your ID and the defendant provided a name, what happened?
The police told over his radio our names, and then he asked Patrick to step out of the vehicle.
What happened when the officer asked Patrick to step out of the vehicle?
He reached behind him, pulled out a gun, and shot the officer
How many times?
twice.
When you say twice, when was the first shot fired?
At the window, and then he reached over when the officer fell to the ground and shot him again.
What was your reaction when you saw this happen?
I was scared.
What did the defendant do after he shot the officer the second time?
He drove off
How?
fast and through blinking lights because there was a.
Can you try to speak up and into the microphone? I'm sorry.
He drove fast and through blinking lights. It was a railroad crossing.
And so he got through the crossing before the train got there?
Yes.
After he crossed the railroad tracks, where did you all go?
To the end of the road. He realized it was a dead end, so he got out of the vehicle.
Before we get to the dead end, as you're driving down the road, what's happening inside the car?
Patrick, I asked him why he did that, and he told me that it was either him or the cop, and I was freaking out, and he just kept telling me that he was sorry.
When you say you were freaking out, what were you doing?
I was yelling at him.
You said the defendant said to you, "I'm sorry,"
Yes.
but he told you it was either him or the police officer.
Yes.
When you drove down to the dead end, what happened there?
We got out of the vehicle. Patrick grabbed something from the back of the car.
Do you know what that something was?
No.
And what happened after he grabbed the something out of the back of the car?
He grabbed my arm and started running into an open area.
When you say open area, what do you mean?
It was dark, I don't really remember, but I know there were houses around us. I don't know where we were.
Was there also wooded areas sporadically throughout the houses?
Yes.
But when you say it was dark, absent the lighting from the houses, could you see anything?
No.
Why'd you go with him?
I guess out of shock, he grabbed my arm. I don't know where I was. I was in the middle of nowhere.
So you went with him.
Yes.
Where'd you end up?
Under what looked like a trailer somewhere.
How long do you think you were under that trailer?
Probably 2-3 minutes.
Are you talking to him at that point in time?
Yes.
What are you saying to him?
That I wanted to go back, that I have a daughter at home. I had told him that I would give the police his fake name, just pretty much anything, so he would let me go back.
So you were just begging for him to let you go back?
Basically.
At some point in time, did he allow you to leave him?
Yes.
Did he say anything to you when you left him?
We both turned off our phones.
Do you know why?
I guess so I wouldn't call 911.
Where did you leave the defendant when you walked away from him?
Under the trailer in the wooded area.
So the last time you saw him before today in person was when you left him under that trailer in the darkness.
Yes.
Where did you go when you got out from underneath that trailer?
I tried to find my way back.
Did you walk back to where the van was?
Yes.
Where was that van parked?
In between 2 trees.
And from there, where did you go?
Back to the scene of the crime.
You just were walking
Yes.
sort of down the dirt road back to where you came from?
Yes.
After you had separated yourself from the defendant, did you turn your phone back on?
Yes.
And when you turned your phone back on, what'd you do?
I called 911.
Prior to coming to court today, you've had the opportunity to listen to that phone call, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point in time, we would publish State's Exhibit Number 4 in evidence, the 911 call that Ms. Gail placed on that evening.
All right, you may publish.
I'm doing check right now. What's the address of the emergency?
I'm not sure where this is. Hold on, I'm going through the woods. I was with this guy that
Do you use police or fire rescue?
the police are at the GIC, them shining the lights.
Okay, so what's going on?
Okay, listen, my friend, I was in the car with him, and he started shooting, and he threw out paperwork, and he shot the cop. And
Your friend?
no, not my friend. Well, he's not really my friend, he's in Cullen.
Where are you at?
Oh, ma'am, I have no first idea. Please hold on 1 second, okay?
What? Okay, but hey, what is your name? Hey, what?
My name
Hey,
my name
hey.
is Noel Gail. I'm sorry, my name is Noel Gail.
Calm down. I need you to talk to me. I need you to calm down. I need you to talk to me. Okay?
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
So what does your friend do?
What do you mean, what does he do? He doesn't work. I don't know what
No. What did he do tonight?
Okay, so he picked me up, we were supposed to hang out, go trail right in there.
Okay.
You know, and-
Okay, I understand. What's your friend's name?
Hold on. Oh my goodness.
Hey, I need you to calm down. What is your friend's name?
Yeah, it's Pat.
What?
My friend's name is Pat.
His name is what?
Pat. Yeah. P-A-T.
What is his full name?
I don't know his full name. I know his name is Patrick.
What is your name?
Noel
What's your last name?
Gail.
Spell that.
Gale.
So you were with him?
Yeah, I was drinking in the car. When we got pulled over, on the way to go trail
Where
ride.
is he at right now? I don't know. Where is he at right now?
Oh, yeah, man, I have no idea.
So where are you at?
I'm walking down the road.
What did he do?
We pulled over because we were stopped, and
Okay, I understand. What did he do? Who stopped you guys?
a police officer,
And what happened?
he was gunshots, and I think he shot the cop.
You need to stay on the phone with me, do you understand?
It's him. I'm not hanging up. I'm not 100%.
So he just dropped you off?
He told me to run, and I told him, well, first I told him to let me out the car, and he didn't let me out the car. And then finally, he, hid the car between some trees and told me to run, and that was it. And I left, and I called you.
Hey, it was only you two in the car?
Huh?
It was only you two in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's think about it. Huh? And that, I have my address on. You don't hang up, you understand?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not.
Yes, we believe it was a Mario 2019 car.
Ma'am, I'm walking towards the police right now.
She said she walking. Do you see these notes? Is there only him in the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am. I don't think he's in the vehicle anymore. I think he ditched it.
Why do you feel that way?
Because I took his video, he told me not to get out of the car.
I can't calm. You gotta bring it back there, honey.
I understand. I'm so sorry.
Does he have a cell phone on him?
I'm sorry.
Does he have a cell phone on him?
I don't know. He might have left it in the car. He might have it on. I have no idea.
So how did you get in contact with him?
I got in contact with him through Facebook Messenger. That's how me and him started talking. I know he does have a cell phone. I did call him earlier today.
What phone number did you call?
Hold on. Let me just see. Okay, 904. 618 4720.
Do you want? And that's the phone number that you called him on today?
Yes, ma'am. I see you have license plate to me. I believe it's a police officer.
I'm gonna stay on the phone with you and see with the police officer.
Okay.
Ms. Gale, where that call ends, can you actually see the police officers at that point in time?
Yes.
Do you walk to them and do they take you into custody?
Yes.
Before we go any further, I want to go back a little bit back to the gas station. How long do you think you were at the gas station?
I don't know exactly.
Okay. But you went inside, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever see a police officer while you were at the gas station?
No.
When was the first time you even knew there was a police officer behind you?
When Patrick told me.
So he was the first person to notice a police officer?
Yes.
And that was before the emergency lights were turned on?
Yes.
Sounds like you convinced him not to run in the car. Did you have any idea what was going to take place during the course of the traffic stop?
No.
I think you even said it got silent after the lights went on.
Yes.
After the lights went on, do you recall any additional conversation between you and the defendant
No.
before the shot was fired?
No.
When you saw him shoot the officer, was that the first time you actually saw the gun that night?
Yes.
Did you have any idea he was planning to do that?
No.
Is that why you freaked out?
Yes.
After you turned yourself in to the police officers on the road, did you cooperate with their investigation?
Yes.
Eventually, you spoke to detectives that night, correct?
Yes.
And at some point in time, did they ask you to try to identify the defendant?
Yes.
In fact, didn't they actually show you somebody else who they had taken into custody?
Yes.
What did you tell them at that point in time?
They had the wrong person.
So at that point, you were not, even though you told them you were going to do it, you were not protecting this defendant.
No.
How did you assist them in providing his real identification?
I showed them his Facebook page.
Did it have a photograph of him?
Yes.
Okay, did it have his name?
Yes.
And eventually, did you sit down and talk with detectives at the police station that night?
Yes.
Were you cooperative?
Yes.
Were there points in time, though, that you actually didn't tell the whole truth?
Yes.
What did you not tell the truth about initially?
Guns and drugs.
Okay, why?
I didn't want to get in trouble.
So you never told them that you were doing drugs with the defendant?
No.
You didn't tell them about the guns that were inside the vehicle?
No.
What did you tell them?
That Patrick had shot the cop.
I'm gonna ask, I understand, you need to
Sorry.
speak a little into the microphone directly.
That Patrick had shot the cop.
But what were your plans that night? What did you tell them you and the defendant were doing?
That we had plans to go trail riding.
And that those were your plans before the traffic stop occurred?
Yes.
So you left out buying drugs, doing drugs, guns in the car. You left out that.
Yes.
But did you tell them what happened after the traffic stop?
Yes.
Any point in time, did you try to protect this defendant?
No.
Just told them what happened.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't have any further questions.
Cross-examination?
Morning, Ms. Gail.
Good morning.
The money that was spent for the drugs that night, that was your money?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Yes, sir.
If you'll just pull the microphone
Yeah,
toward her
actually,
just
I'm
a
also
little
gonna
bit.
ask you, you can move the chair up, it's heavy, but if you, maybe the deputy, there you go. All right, go ahead.
And that night, you said that when you got the drugs from Kane, you guys didn't do the drugs in Kane's car, but you went back to the van in the parking lot of the Big Lots, and you did some drugs there.
Yes.
And that was, you were smoking meth.
Yes.
And then while you were driving, you did more meth.
I believe so.
And then you said you did more meth in the parking lot of the gas station where you got gas.
Yes.
That was a gas station that was open and lit up.
Yes.
And I think you said he contacted you over Facebook that night. Is that what you said?
Yes.
But isn't it true that the idea about drugs was your idea?
Yes.
You wanted to get drugs and knew that Patrick had a connection.
Yes.
And you also knew that he had a ride,
Yes.
and you didn't have a ride.
Correct.
And you admit that you were using him that night to get drugs.
Correct.
And you said that you had taken Xanax even before you got with Patrick.
Yes.
And you don't remember whether he did any Xanax that night or not.
I don't recall.
And when you do Xanax, it makes you forget things, doesn't it?
Yes.
The smoking the meth, when you smoked, it's a pipe with a bowl on the end, right?
Yes.
And you put the meth in the bowl and then you light it and then you inhale.
Yes.
And you said that Patrick, though, was using a different method of inhaling it, at least at the gas station.
Yes.
And that was just like a stem
Yes.
without a bowl on the end.
Correct.
And is that called hot rail?
Yes.
And you didn't want to do that because you were afraid to do it, right?
I had never done it.
You were afraid that it would burn your nose?
Yes.
And the purpose of the hot rail is to get more of a high, is that right?
Yes.
And it's your feeling that that night Patrick did more meth than you did?
I don't remember.
You just don't remember at all?
I don't remember who did more.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection if you saw a statement you made earlier?
Sure.
You think it would?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Yes. This was 3 years ago. Honestly, if I made that statement at the time, it was way sooner to the incident.
So you think that statement is true?
Yes.
Now, is it true that you would see a difference in Patrick's behavior when he was on meth?
Yes.
And it was like he was more wired,
Yes.
and he would be up for days at a time,
Yes.
and he would make bad decisions,
Yes.
wouldn't sleep,
Yes.
and he got paranoid, thinking people were after him.
Yes.
His behavior was more erratic and illogical.
Yes.
He engaged in behaviors that didn't make a lot of sense when he was on meth.
Yes.
And you would agree that riding in a stolen van at night guns in the van, drugs in the van, with a plan to drive out and shoot guns is an illogical plan.
Yes.
But at that time, on that night, it seemed okay to you.
Yes.
If you hadn't been on meth, you would recognize that as very illogical.
Yes.
And when you use meth, it speeds up your thoughts, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it jumbles your thoughts.
Yes.
You mentioned some of the things that Patrick said to you before you left him there in the dark and you walked back toward where the van was and back toward the police. You remember you said he was talking to you, right?
Yes, he had spoke to me.
And didn't he tell you to run for safety?
He eventually, yes, said that I could go back.
And told you to tell the truth?
No.
He didn't tell you to tell the truth?
No.
Now, back in August, the month before this happened, which was in September, you had been in a detox program, had you not?
Yes.
At Gateway?
Yes.
And it was part inpatient, part outpatient.
Yes.
But the very next month, before this night, you had relapsed.
That night was the night that I had relapsed. Yes.
And before you relapsed, you were trying to get off of both meth and fentanyl.
Yes.
Am I right that it's very hard to stay off of meth once you have started using it?
No. Not for me anyways. It was not my drug of choice.
Well, you said you were in treatment for meth and fentanyl and relapsed the very next month. So it was easy for you to stay off?
No, I guess not.
I mean, even after going through treatment, it's difficult once you're addicted to a drug to stay off of it.
Yes.
Even if you have family members telling you not to use drugs,
Right.
even if you have a little girl that you're taking care of, it's hard to stay off drugs.
Yes.
It's a constant struggle, isn't it?
Yes.
And you're still struggling with yours, aren't you?
I'm sorry?
You're still struggling with your addiction, aren't you?
No, I'm sober. I've been sober for 2 years now.
You're actually facing a charge right now, aren't you?
Yes.
And one of the charges is possession of fentanyl.
It was not mine. It was in my purse. It was my ex-boyfriend's, and he told the officer that it was his as well. They still charged me with it.
And that charge is still pending.
Yes.
And you are being placed into a drug program, are you not?
No.
Pretrial program?
Pretrial services.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, pretrial services.
Thank you, Your Honor, that's all I have.
Redirect.
Yes, sir. Ms. Gail, so you did meth with this defendant in the Big Lots parking lot right after you bought it, right?
Yes.
And even before then, you had taken a Xanax before you'd even met up with this defendant?
Yes.
I think you stated you smoked more meth while you were driving around, per Mr. Chipperfield's question, correct?
Yes.
And then right before this incident took place, you smoked meth again with the defendant before you were pulled over by the police officer.
Yes.
So despite the Xanax and despite taking meth 3 separate times before that traffic stop, you still had enough wherewithal to tell this defendant not to run from the police officer in a high-speed chase, didn't you?
Yes.
And you still had enough wherewithal to beg to let him to let you go so you could go back to your daughter, correct?
Yes.
And even though you smoked all those drugs, you still knew what he did was wrong, right?
Yes.
And as soon as you left him, that's when you called the police.
Yes.
So even under the influence of those narcotics,
Your Honor, I'll object to the leading questions.
Sustain.
you had been smoking. Did you understand the difference between right and wrong still?
Yes.
And despite all the drugs, were you still able to cooperate with the police and tell them what happened?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
All right, the witness may step down. Is she excused from her subpoena?
She's excused by the state. I don't know, the defense also has her.
Or the subject for recall?
Your Honor, I would like her subject to recall.
All right.
Case, but she need not step.
All right, Ms. Gail, you could be subject to recall, all right? Thank you. Call your next witness.
The state would call Officer Dale Cullen with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Your Honor, they said the officer was just finishing up in the restroom. He'll be right here.
All right. While we're waiting on the witness, if the jurors want to just stand in place, you can. Although, it looks like, here we go.
Check under Morris. Should be a diagram there, because he doesn't have it. I got the hard copy.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Can you please state your name and introduce yourself to the jury?
Officer Dale Cullen with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
And Officer Cullen, if you could try to speak up into the microphone, the acoustics are real bad, so if you can try to keep your voice up for everybody, okay?
Yes, sir.
Officer Cullen, how long have you been employed with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
11 years.
And what are the various positions you've held with JSO?
I was a patrolman for a little over 3 years, and I've been a canine officer now for 7.
And when you say a canine officer, explain your duties as a canine officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
So I have I've had one assigned patrol dog, Canine Chaos. He turns 8 years old this month, So I've had him for my entire tenure as a canine officer. And our duties are to locate and track down criminals that have run from the police. We also have a secondary job of explosives detection that we do at like Jack's games and dignitary protection and other stuff like that. But day to day, it's finding people that have run from the police.
So when you are assigned to the canine unit, how is it that you come to be assigned a particular dog?
So when we get assigned, our dogs are bought for us from a vendor. Our dogs are from Europe. The vendor we use buys them from Europe. Then we buy them from the vendor, and then we go through about an 8-month-long dog school to train them and then certify in patrol, and in my case, patrol and explosives detection. So,
What kind of dog is Chaos?
he's a Belgian Malinois.
And when you say you went through this 8-month training program, obviously, I can't have you explain everything that took place in 8 months, but briefly explain to the jury the process of that 8-month training program, both for you and for your canine Chaos.
So we learn together on tracking, how to track, and a lot of it's how to bite or engage and how to release. A lot of the liability stuff of being able to send him, and then after a suspect, as well as call him back. All of those type of things. Basically everything I would do on a day-to-day patrol of finding and locating someone and either engaging them or not engaging them. That's we learn all that in patrol school.
So when you went through canine training, Chaos is the only dog that you've ever had.
Yes, sir.
So how many years had you been working with Chaos prior to September of 2021?
I got him in April of 17, so 5.
4.5, 5
4 and a
years.
half, 4.5, yes, sir.
And when you're assigned in the canine unit, are you working with your dog pretty much exclusively? Every day he is your partner?
Oh, yes, he lives with me. He's at home with me. He's at home right now. He is in my back seat of my car every day. Every day I go to work, he's there.
And in addition to the training, while you are working with Chaos, do you come to learn his tendencies, how he tracks, and his indications as to when you know he is doing his job?
Oh, absolutely.
And explain that a little bit to the jury, so how you read your dog that you're working with.
So the phrase we like to use is 2 bodies, 1 mind. You know, that's kind of what you're really trying to get to is over time, you learn to read him, his tendencies of so for instance, like on a track, we say there's tracking and there's air scenting. Like dogs they've hunted for thousands of years. All we're really doing is just teaching them how to take the rabbit that they're used to tracking, right? They're used to tracking the footsteps of the rabbit, like ground disturbance, what we would smell as fresh cut grass. They smell in every footstep. And they're also getting like the fur and the stuff of a rabbit to track them. And then once they get close to the rabbit that's hiding in a bush, they then start to air scent. They lift their head. They get more animated because they're really trying to hone in and find which bush this rabbit's in. All we do is just take that. Instead of a rabbit, we teach them how to do it with humans. So it's the same thing of you learn how to read when he's tracking, when he's on it, when he comes off it, if I missed a turn, or then when he also lifts his head and starts, I know for Chaos, he lifts his head, he'll really start getting really animated. I call it the dance. He starts doing this kind of prance with his paws, and I know that's when we're getting close. And then for Chaos specifically, when he starts barking, that's when he's basically telling me, hey, Dad, the guy's right here. So I know that's his indication of we're really close.
So I'd like to direct your attention to the evening of September 23rd, bleeding over to September 24th of 2021. Were you working on that evening?
Yes, I was.
In what capacity?
As a canine handler.
And specifically, what were you doing that evening prior to receiving a call in regards to something occurring up in Nassau County?
I was with a couple of the other canine officers. I think we were leaving training somewhere. We were in the Arlington area. So.
And what was the first indication or information that you had received that something had occurred up in Nassau County?
We got a message that an officer had been shot in the line of duty in Nassau, and then an address was sent out over off off like Monument, McCormick area, the Arlington area, of a possible destination of a van. And so we immediately started to head that way to try and intercept the van.
So at that point in time, the van had not been recovered that was involved in the incident.
Correct.
Based upon the information that you had received, that van was somehow tied to an address in Duval County?
Yes.
And given your location and the location of the other canine officers you were working with, did you go to a location to try to intercept the van?
We did, yes.
What happened when you got to that location?
Once we got there, we were immediately notified that they believed that the suspect was still in Nassau County. And I guess they had found out that the van hadn't left. And so they requested us, the canine officers, as well as our air unit. And so we went up to 301 in Sandy Ford to help out there.
Is this unusual for an outside agency to request your assistance?
Yes, this is the first time, that was the first time I'd ever worked in Nassau County.
And specifically, the dog that you had, Chaos, I think you said he was a police or a patrol apprehension dog. Do you know at the time, did the Nassau County Sheriff's Office have similar canines in service?
They did not have any patrol dogs, no.
And so when you received the information that the suspect vehicle was still in Nassau County, that's when you proceeded to 301 and Sandy Ford Road?
Yes, sir.
When you arrived at that location, was the victim, Deputy Joshua Moyers, still on scene?
No.
He had already been transported?
Yes, sir.
Did you know Deputy Moyers?
No, sir.
Had you ever met him before, best of your recollection?
No, sir.
And this was the first time that you had ever been in Nassau County working with Chaos, deploying Chaos?
Yes.
Who else traveled with you to Nassau County for this call?
Once we got there, there was myself, Officer Mason, Officer Holcomb, Officer Zona, and Officer Hart. They're all canine handlers with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. We all arrived there together. I think a couple of us came from different locations, but we arrived pretty close to the same time.
Okay, and so your entire unit, or at least the canine unit for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, converged on Sandy Ford Road in 301?
Yes, the ones that were working at the time, yes.
What did you do when you arrived at that location?
I learned that an officer had been shot, and then they believed that the van was somewhere down Sandy Ford Road, because from what I understood, they had no evidence that it had exited the one-way, like a one-way in, one-way out. And right about that time, they found a female that was, I think she was walking down Sandy Ford. Somebody said they found a female that was in the vehicle, and Sandy Ford kind of dead ends, turns into a dirt road, dead ends in a couple of driveways. And they said she was down there, and she said that the suspect was a white male in a gray shirt with a shaved head, and he was hiding under a trailer somewhere at the dead end of Sandy Ford.
Okay, so you were receiving suspect information, and you know that at least one individual inside the vehicle had been taken into custody at that point.
Yes.
Did you and your fellow canine officers establish a plan as to how you would conduct a search?
We did, yes.
And what was that plan?
So we would use Chaos, and then we would, there were Nassau County deputies that were with us, but we would form basically a large search party with Chaos in the front, and we would search using a wedge formation to push into that area and try and locate the suspect.
Was there a specific reason why you all selected Chaos for this search?
Yes, he's probably one of the best tracking dogs. I would say I would put him up against anybody in the state of Florida the way he tracks. And he's also one of the most experienced dogs that we have, as far as he's found quite a number of people, and so we all was pretty unanimous that we would use him because he was the best that we had at the moment.
So despite the fact all of the handlers that were there that you described, they all had their dogs with them as well, correct?
Yes, yes.
But the decision was made to utilize Chaos for the search.
Yes, sir.
Describe for me, when you were talking about a wedge formation, what is that and why was that technique utilized in this search?
It just gives us the best, like the safest option. We're not all bunched up, and then that way I can work a long line, like a 15-foot leash, and let Chaos be out in front, so that he can not only just lead us where we need to go, but also he's gonna be the first in a danger if we need that to be.
Describe for me the lighting conditions in the area where you were conducting the search.
Very dark. I mean, we had a little bit of moonlight, but it's the middle of the night, and you're talking the dead end of Sandy Ford is a dirt road that turns into just so maybe single family homes as well as a couple of trailers. There's no street lights or anything. We're talking about the dark. It is dark.
And at this point in time, you were aware of what had happened to Deputy Moyers.
Yes, sir.
And so you're looking for the suspect who had just shot a police officer.
Yes, sir.
Take us through how you started the search that evening.
So we start the search. We hadn't found the van yet. We were just kind of starting from the dead end of the road, where kind of this loose area where this female had given us information. And we start pushing, I think it was maybe west, if I'm remembering correctly. We go, and then Chaos begins to do the dance. He indicates that someone's close, and I see a boat trailer, and I let Chaos go just to give us even more distance from this, someone that just shot a police officer. He goes and finds someone that was hiding under the boat trailer and engages him, and we then take that person into custody.
Okay. And so this is in the middle of the night, correct? About what time is it that you find this individual under the boat trailer?
We'll say between midnight and 1, I think, somewhere around there.
And so Chaos locates this individual and you take him into custody.
Yes,
At that point in time, did you believe you had apprehended the suspect?
we did, yes.
Did that individual fit the description that you had of the person who shot Deputy Moyers?
Yes, sir. He was a white male in a gray shirt with a shaved head hiding under a trailer.
Okay. And describe the trailer. I'm trying to get a picture of what this individual was doing. Describe where he was positioned when Chaos engaged him.
Yeah, so it looked like it was just an abandoned boat trailer. There was a boat on it, obviously, that was not seaworthy. And there was grass growing all over the trailer and everything, and he was hidden up underneath it. And that's where he found him was.
And once that individual was taken into custody, what did you and the rest of the search team do at that point?
Once he was taken in custody, we went a little bit further and we found the van. We found where it was kind of crashed into the woods. And then once we found the van, we pulled out, went back to our cars, and just sat there. We were contemplating leaving, but Nassau County asked us to stay in case their detectives needed to ask us any questions.
So at that point, you found the van that was crashed into the woods. You found this individual. Did you believe you had the right person in custody?
Initially, yes.
And so you sort of pull back out. Is the dog then put back into the car while this is taking place?
Yes, he was in the back of my car, gave him some water, just let him hang out.
At some point in time, did you learn that perhaps the individual who was underneath the trailer at 2 o'clock in the morning, the boat trailer, was not the person you were looking for?
Yes.
And how did you gain that information?
So Nassau came to us and said that they believed that wasn't the right individual, and they asked us to go out and search just to make sure there was no one else out there. They were kind of working through.
And when you went back out for the second search, did you also utilize Chaos for that second search?
We did, yes, sir.
Okay. Who was with you as a part of this search party from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
So from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office was myself, Officer Holcomb, Officer Zona, Officer Mason, and Officer Hart, the same canine handlers that were with me on the first.
Did you also have 3 other officers from the Nassau County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir.
So a search party in total was 8 individuals?
Yes.
How did you begin the second search after you were told that this was the person under the boat trailer was not the right person?
So to begin this search, same type of thing. We had all of us. We had Chaos out in front of us. We went past the van, and basically we were just kind of do a whole circle around the area. And so we pushed west, found like a farmhouse, little farm barn area. nothing there. We kept going north. We find, we hit like a little pond. I remember there was a pond with like a deer, like a fake deer that you shoot archery arrows at. And once we hit that, then Chaos did the dance again. And I thought, oh man, like someone else is here. Like what kind of, it solidified, because at first I was like, they got to be wrong. Like we found a guy hiding under a boat, and then now he's doing the dance again. And I, like knowing him, knowing how he acts, I said, there's somebody in the woods right there.
Your Honor, may I have the witness step down?
He may step down.
Officer Cullen, if you can position yourself over here so you're facing the jury and the court reporter. We have shown you what's been marked and moved into evidence in State's Exhibit number 34. This is a diagram of the location that you had just described and conducted the search in. At the bottom of the diagram, there is a vehicle depicted in the woodline. Is that where the van was located? Yes. If you could, sort of describe to the jury, utilizing the diagram, how it was that you conducted your search, starting at the van to where you saw Chaos, then ultimately start, in your words, doing the dance, indicating that there was someone nearby.
So we started the van, we went, trying to find our little farmhouse here, and then we worked this way, and this is the pond. So as we hit the pond, right in this section is that deer that I was talking about, the big deer. That's when it really starts scarcity, really pulling towards these woods.
And so how did you approach the woodline? Did you go at the woodline directly?
So at first, I was kind of letting him kind of work the odor of where the guy is. Obviously, kind of bounce around a little bit, right? Almost like he's playing hot cold, kind of loses it here, and gets hot in here, that type of thing, just kind of narrows it down. So he pulls me all the way to these woods here, and then ended up, I think he was trying to maybe look for a track, kind of bouncing around, and this is where we enter the woods, right in this section here. You can retake it.
Now, Officer Cullen, are you dressed today in the same manner in which you were dressed that evening?
Yes, sir.
And it appears that you have, in addition to your radio, you have a body-worn camera affixed to the front of you. Is that standard?
Yes, sir.
We had heard earlier that the Nassau County Sheriff's Office was not equipped at the time with body-worn camera footage. Was the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
Yes, we were.
Can you explain a little bit as to how the body-worn camera is used when you're doing these type of searches?
So before I start my search, I turn my camera on, and it records everything, the whole situation. And then when I'm done, typically it's where turn them off after any citizen contact, or kind of when you're done with that call on that scene, we can hold our button down and it cancels it, or it turns the video off.
Okay. And so prior to beginning the second search, did you in fact activate your body-worn camera so the second search is actually going to be captured on videotape?
Yes, sir, I did.
So as Chaos was alerting and sort of honing in on that wood line, what specifically was Chaos doing that gave you an indication that this individual was close?
So he'll lift his head, and he'll really start, like I said before, just that like high prance, and he'll get just really excited, lots of fast movement back and forth, and you'll really see his nose up in the air, like waving it from side to side as he's trying to work that odor and kind of like really hone in on where the guy's at.
The area of the wood line, describe the visibility when Chaos is alerting like this.
So, I mean, the darkness alone just makes it, visibility is very low without any flashlights, but also flashlights we know can be dangerous because the suspect isn't gonna have the same visibility as us. However, if we turn on our lights, he gives us something to shoot at. So we really try to be cognizant of our lights, of trying to flick them on, flick them off. When he does get close, I'll try not to use my light as much as I can. But also in the woods, very thick. When we do start to go in, where I showed you on that, when we start to go in, I tripped and fell because the woods were just so thick and just with vines and just everything was just holding us up. So
So
the thickness
between-
and the darkness really
Between
compounded.
the foliage and the lack of light, how far in front of you could you actually see, especially if you weren't utilizing a flashlight?
Oh, with no light, I mean, at points, Chaos was on a 15-foot leash, and in the foliage, I couldn't see him at times. So, I mean, if that gives you any indication.
And given the circumstances, obviously a police officer has been shot. As you're conducting the search, are all of you constantly having your flashlights on?
So that's where it kind of comes to that light discipline. You're trying to really just flick your light here and there, trying to make sure I can see Chaos, read his mannerisms, as well as like look far and try and search some stuff, but then turn it off. You know, you're really trying to be mindful of your white light usage.
Is that an officer safety issue?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
So as chaos starts to alert, what in particular told you we are on a track and there is another individual that we are tracking at this point in time?
So, I mean, I knew we had someone back by the pond. We really started dancing around. Once we push into the woods, and that's when he really stopped the side-to-side dancing and was like in a straight line. And then he started barking. And to him, when he starts barking, he's got him. And so at that point, I knew I didn't want to get any closer to someone that had just shot a policeman. So I dropped the leash to then let Chaos go and to essentially take one for the team, and he gets closer instead of us. And so that's what I did.
After you release chaos from the lead, what happened?
So he goes, and like I said, the foliage was so thick, I made the decision just to use my white light, so I turned my pistol light on, and I could see him kind of hopping barely. I would almost just kind of see parts of his tail as he hopped through the bushes, and then he hops over into like a thick brush area that might have been a tree laying down, just like a really thick area where I couldn't see him anymore, and 2 gunshots ring out. I immediately hear Chaos yelp, so I knew he'd been hit, and thinking that those gunshots were towards him, towards myself, and the other officers, I returned fire. I ended up firing 18 rounds towards what I thought was the boys and the gunfire coming at me.
So you fired your service weapon, handgun or rifle?
Handgun.
And why did you return fire at that point in time?
Out of fear for my own life and the lives of the officers that were with me. I thought we were basically near taking fire in a gunfight.
Based upon the sound of the gunfire, you believed you were being fired upon?
Yes, sir.
Let me talk real quick before we move on. You had indicated you heard the gunshots and then you heard Chaos yelp.
Yes.
Had Chaos engaged a suspect, would you have heard that if he had actually engaged a suspect, meaning lashed onto somebody?
Usually you'll hear them yell. So it would come. Chaos is silent, but the suspect would give noise if they make a noise. Sometimes I've had a couple of them where people are so drunk or just so out on drugs that they might not make a noise, but typically no.
Okay. Did you hear any noise prior to the gunshots?
No.
Then once you heard the gunshots and you heard Chaos yelp, that's when you returned fire?
Yes, sir.
Did other members of your search party also return fire?
Yes.
How was it that you could determine the direction of where you returned fire?
So I basically shot it where I thought Chaos was last at, because the gunfire sounded like it was pretty much right at where Chaos was. And so I was trying to, essentially, Chaos gave me the land marker of where to shoot, and that's the area that I shot at.
After the initial 2 shots and then your volley of shots by law enforcement, were there any additional gunshots?
Yes. So, excuse me. So we were on a line. We all shot in the same direction. And then afterwards, I tried to get a couple of guys to flank and maneuver and create an L on on the spot where we had received gunfire to give us a tactical advantage. And during that, as I was moving, so I was moving us all to the right. And while I was doing that, I heard another round come from the left of where we were. So essentially, he had moved and fired one more round.
Okay. And could you tell the direction of fire? It was at your left, but could you tell where it was fired at?
No, I could not.
After that additional shot, what took place?
So I tried to call Chaos out because I could see him. Initially, I thought he was dead. So seeing him, that he was still alive, I tried calling him, recalling him, but he couldn't. Turned out his leash was tangled up as well as he was hurt. I could see that his leg had been hit, so he didn't have the strength to pull his leash out of the woods and the vines. So eventually, another officer covered me, and I crawled up and I unhooked him, got another leash from another handler that was with me, and I ran Chaos out and got him to a truck, and we took him to the vet.
How did you approach Cass? Did you just walk into the brush?
No, so I army crawled up there.
So you crawled on your belly to get to where Cass was?
Yes, with another officer over top of me with a rifle to provide cover.
And you said you were able to get Cass out. Could you tell once you got to him that he had injuries and you needed to take him to the vet?
Yes, it was apparent his leg and stomach had been hit.
Obviously, we talked about how when you started the search, the body-worn camera was turned on. Prior to coming to court, have you had the opportunity to review State's Exhibit 35, which is a portion of your body-worn camera footage from your searches that evening?
Yes, I have.
You're right, at this point in time, permission to publish State's 35.
You may. All right, you want to stop it. Thanks, Sergeant. Is it on now?
It is, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, you may continue.
That darkness was the white light we were talking about. How I was really trying to rewind the light because I knew he had him. See how he's excited and really dancing around, going a lot faster. Everyone up?
Cass's actions at this point in time are alerting when somebody's close.
Oh, absolutely. He's just trying to work the odor to find out where to dive into the woods. Coming across. You can see his tail start wagging really fast. Here. Fuck this radio. Still going. Let me know when you're with me. Still. Chaos. That's where I fell. Fucker. There. Oh, man. That's when he's telling me, hey, let me go, Dad. I'm letting him search. So I said, let him search.
Hold on, get him out, everybody. Hold on, hold on.
And then if you follow my flashlight, you'll just see kind of his tail going through that thick stuff.
All right, stay. Move left. Moving left. Stay down. No, stay. Jason, Jeremy with me. We move right. Keep on him. We're moving right. Chaos here. Here, buddy. Stay here. Is that him? Chaos, come here, bud. Chaos. Chaos, here. Here, come on, bud. Come on, bud. You're doing good, buddy. Come here. Come on, Chaos. All right, we're going to keep moving right. We're going to swing around right. We flank him right.
Hey, you want to surround this and get some cover?
Chaos. Yeah, fuck. Chaos, come here, buddy. Come here, Chaos.
Dale, you want me to move in on him?
Fuck no. No, we stay here.
Got his leash right there.
Come on, buddy.
Dale, give us some cover. Y'all get some cover.
Hey, there was another shot that went from the left.
Okay.
It was maybe a 60.
Blue.
Hey, incoming unit, shoot left. Move left.
Left. Y'all stay left.
Stay left. Hold line on there. Stay left and stay on line.
Where are you? I'm right here. All right. I want y'all more to the left. We're going to make an L.
Hey, you might be shot in the fucking face. You got blood.
Hey, listen to me.
All right, listen, the dog's dead. Don't worry about the dog.
Okay, listen to me. There was a single gunshot after our volley to the left. Does everybody understand that? Yes. All right. Let's get a weapons condition check, ammo check.
I do not. I got extra mags.
All right.
Ammo check.
Anybody have eyes?
No, we do not. All right, let's move. God, fuck me.
Dale,
Yeah.
we need to push forward
Yeah.
and then clear left.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
Do you want to get chaos?
Yes. So we're going to push straight forward.
You and I are going to push forward. Hey, Dale and I are going to push forward to the dog. Hey, Dale and I are going to push forward to the dog. We need lethal on us. Copy?
Copy.
Go.
Hold on. Stay right here. Give me a light. Come here, bud. Hey, buddy. Hey, I got you.
Everything is back
I know.
upside,
I got you, bud. Jeremy, I'm going to need that leash.
I got you.
Come here.
Here you go, buddy. Inside.
Come here, right there. Yep. Good job, bud.
You got him? Is he hit?
I don't fucking know. I think so.
I think he was on the left side somewhere, Dale.
Hold on.
Bleeding. Either
Yeah, he's hit.
bleeding or the suspect.
Okay. All right.
Just get him out and get him
Yeah, he's
No,
hit.
no, no. He's.
He's hit.
Come here,
Back
bud.
left leg.
Yeah, he's all right.
Back left leg.
Get him moving, man. Get him
Come here, bud. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on, bud. Come here, buddy. Good boy. Come on. Come on. Come on. Good job, bud. Good job, bud. Come on. Come on. That's it, bud. Come on. You got it, buddy. You can do it. Come on, buddy. No, sir. We don't know. Good job, bud. Come on, boy. Good job, buddy. You found that man, bud. Come on, bud. job, man.
I need you over the top of us with your clear.
Come here. Hey, he's hit. Dog's hit. Here, watch out. Let me get. I need out of here. I gotta get him to the vet.
Anybody else hit?
What, none of us. See what's that one, bud? They need y'all back there now.
What is it?
Get back there. They need you. They haven't. No suspect in custody.
They didn't get him?
Not yet.
Okay.
We should return fire, but
Okay, I'm gonna get fire arrested and get him to you, okay?
no, I gotta take him to the vet. Come on, buddy.
Go with them. I got
Come on. You're a good boy.
Come on, come on.
Where's my truck? Where's my truck?
Hey, truck over here, truck over here.
Come here. Come here, bud. Good job. Hey, get me to my truck, please.
Where's it at?
In his leg. Come on, hop up. Oh, that's a bud. Good job, buddy.
Go forward, go around.
Good job. That's a good boy, bud. You got that man, bud. His body came up.
As depicted in that video, could you see any individual when you heard the gunshots?
No, sir.
And did you return fire because you felt you were being fired upon?
Yes, sir.
Did you take Chaos to the emergency room?
Yes. Well, actually, Nassau County's fire rescue transported both of us to the emergency vet.
And so you were transported by the rescue unit down to the emergency vet?
Yes, sir.
Inadvertently, when you arrived at the vet, did you accidentally turn on your body-worn camera, which would then show the treatment that he was receiving and depict the injuries that were suffered by Chaos?
I did. Chaos, I had to pick him up, and his body pressed against my body cam and activated it.
Prior to coming to court today, have you had the opportunity to review State's Exhibit 36, which is the body-worn camera footage from the vet itself?
Yes, sir.
And does that, in fact, show the injuries that were inflicted upon Chaos during this incident?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Huban, if you could publish State's 36.
Sorry, our gurney's in our OR right now with another patient. So, I understand this is an
Looks like-
officer, got
Yes, sir.
shot.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
medical issues?
Shot.
Other than that, no medical issues?
No, ma'am.
Similar issues?
No, ma'am. Oh, he has heartworms right now.
Heartworms? Okay.
Yeah, he's on doxys something or other.
Doxycycline?
Yes.
Okay.
He's on his off cycle.
Okay.
But he does have this.
Okay,
It's
yeah, you take him back. I'll go ahead and get some information because I'm not sure if Nassau County is in our system.
I'm JSO.
Oh, you're JSO?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
We were in Nassau County helping out, but I'm JSO.
Oh, no. Hey, Dr. Russell. Open the door, buddy.
Good job, bud.
All right, big guy. Put you over here.
We count 3 holes.
3 holes?
We count 3, right side.
Put him all the way up there.
All the way.
Right side penis, just north of that, 3 inches back on the right flank hole, and back rear left leg. So one there,
There.
one up here.
Okay. So it kind of went this way.
Yeah, it might be down there.
No, well, yeah.
Touch, and then the back leg and the
An exit from his back in his hind here.
other side. Yeah.
We think it's an exit. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
He's real social,
Okay, I'm coming around the other side so I can see him.
Got it.
Okay?
but he's also.
I'm going to switch sides with her so she can hear the scan.
Plus, good boy, Plus.
We got extra hands, guys. If you need help with anything.
Okay.
When receiving treatment, how many gunshot wounds could you see on Chaos at that time?
It appeared that there was probably one gunshot is what we were thinking, went through one side of his stomach, exited out the other side of his stomach into his leg, and then out the back of that leg. So like one bullet had created 3 to 4 holes in him.
And did he receive medical treatment for those injuries at that time?
Yes, he did.
Was he able to recover?
He did, yes.
He's back in service now.
Yes, sir. Still working today.
Now, because of your involvement in that incident that we witnessed where you and other officers returned fire, did you return and assist in the search for the defendant at that point in time?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Well, one, chaos, it became just a job to take care of him and deal with all of the bandages and changing that. So that was one. And also we're put on administrative leave for a while after we fire our weapon.
Okay. So. And why is that? Why are you put on administrative leave, particularly when the person is still at large who was involved in the incident?
Just agency policy.
And so you can't be involved in the investigation from that point in time on?
Correct, yes.
When the shots were fired, was there sufficient cover for you and your fellow officers after you've been fired upon?
No, it was just vines and nothing that would have stopped a bullet.
So basically, you all are just out there in the darkness at that point?
Yes, sir.
And given the situation with chaos and the fact that you discharged your weapon, did that end your involvement in this case?
It did, yes, sir.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Cross-examination.
Good morning, Officer Cullen.
Morning.
Nothing would have stopped Mr. McDowell from shooting at the 8 of you, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Are there any buildings between you and Mr. McDowell?
No.
Any obstructions other than the branches and trees?
Just the woods.
And there was nothing that would have blocked the bullets that you fired at him, correct?
I believe there was a log, yes, sir.
On the ground.
Yes.
And you weren't the only one with a flashlight.
Correct.
All of you had flashlights?
I believe, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And had Mr. McDowell wanted to shoot at an officer, he would have been able to see the flashlights, right?
Yes, theoretically.
Now, you accounted for the bullet that hit the dog. The last shot that did not come from you guys but came from Mr. McDowell, you said that was off to the left?
Yes, based off of sound, yes.
Okay, and that was after the large volley of shots that were fired by the 8 officers?
Yes, sir.
And there were no bullet strikes found? You don't know which way that bullet was aimed, do you?
I don't know, no, sir.
It could have just been fired in the air as a warning shot.
Oh, I have no idea which way it was fired.
No
yes, sir.
idea at all?
Correct.
But none of the officers got hit by a bullet?
No, sir.
Thank you, Your Officer, or Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor. Officer Cullen, when you heard those gunshots, did you believe you were being fired upon?
Absolutely.
I think you talked about this a little bit earlier. What is the white light or flashlight discipline?
So we're really trying to only use it when when I need to see what I'm like looking for, right? So I'm trying to use it really quick, see what chaos is doing, turns it off. I use it again, and then in the instance where I cut him loose, I needed to be able to track chaos to see where he was going. So that's why I left it on. You can see it kind of, I light pan across the body cam. That gives me an indication of where he's at, and then ultimately led to where to shoot at.
Were other officers using that same technique during the course of the search?
Yes, and you'll see their lights in there almost just flick on, flick off. People would look at chaos. There are other handlers too, so they know how to read a dog. So they'll flick theirs on, look at him, get an idea, turn theirs off. So That's why it's not just constant lights going everywhere. You're seeing lights coming in and going off. We're really trying to minimize our white light exposure to minimize our exposure overall.
And for what reason is that?
For officer safety, if you see 8 flashlights walking through a field, it's easy for someone to shoot at. But if you're just seeing flashes of light here and there, it makes it a little bit harder to shoot it like a flick versus a light that's just walking through the woods.
And when you returned fire and shot 18 times, why did you do that?
To save my life and the lives of the officers that were with me in the woods that day.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, the witness may step down. Is he excused from subpoena?
It's excused by the state defense. You need it? Oh, I don't have any orders.
All right, and you are excused. Can I see council sidebar just for scheduling discussion? All right, ladies and gentlemen, as the attorneys are making their way back to council table, we've talked about it. We're going to go ahead and break for lunch now. And I'm going to ask you, we're going to start back at 1 o'clock, so that gives you about an hour and 20 minutes to break and take it easy and eat lunch. While you're on break, please do not talk about this case with anyone, including among yourselves. Please avoid any media accounts of this case, whether it's online or if you decide to drive somewhere to get something to eat real quick.